In this video, we're going to cover how to start finalizing this rig. So we built essentially all our parts. We have working legs, we have working arms, FK and IK. We got the spine all set up. We have the head and the facial control set up. But those are all still kind of individual parts, and this thing still doesn't really move as a whole. So we need to make sure that, like right now when I move the body, the head staying back like that, and hands can stay in place. There's no way to move the feet with it all at once without grabbing multiple controls. We don't really want to move our rig around like that. As well, we may want the hands to follow multiple parts. We may want the hands to stay in space. We might want them to follow the overall character. We might want them to follow just the chest. We might want them to follow just the head. Say you have to have the hands on the character's head like they're touching their face or resting their hands behind their head or something like that. If they follow the head, that will make things a whole lot easier as opposed to having to constantly animate them following the head. So we're going to build in some controls to allow us to do those things and just kind of organize our overall rig. Because you look in here, we've got all these parts and they're still kind of separated out. So we need to figure out where these all go. As well, we want to keep our controls separate from our parts like the IK handles and spline curves and clusters that we don't want the animators to touch. So we're going to throw all this kind of stuff into another group that we hide and lock so the animators can't touch them. And then we'll have just the controls available for scene. So first off, I'm going to build a couple controls. We want something that allows us to move the whole rig. And there's usually two places you want to move the rig from. It's usually something that's along the floor, so some sort of pivot point here that moves the whole rig, so when they're walking or anything like that, you have a point that you just drag them, and if that, let's say it's a circle, if that circle's on the floor, cutting into the ground plane, the character is going to be walking on the floor. The other is when it comes to jumping and rolling and those kind of things, where now you want to pick a point that's up here. Because this is where your center of gravity is, but now we want to take the arms and everything else along, not just the chest. So we'll build a control for that too. So we'll probably parent one under the other, parent the center of gravity one under the floor one. So if you need to do a spinning jump in air, you could move this floor plane to translate them forward, but then have them doing the spinning from that actual control up here. So let's see, what do I want to build? Well, we're at the bottom. I'm just gonna let's see. I'll just make a nerve circle. Okay, so like that. That's fine. Freeze transformations on that, and group it. And we'll call this guy the move all control. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and, it's not really center line, but it kind of is. But maintain with my naming convention here. And let's see, let's do something else for the. So the reason I'm not going to do another circle or something like that is because we've already got a lot of stuff kind of in the center here. So I'm going to actually build something kind of off the back or either off the front. That's easy to select, but will still give us a pivot point in the center there. So I'm going to go ahead and build myself a new control. I'll do this all top and side as I need. So let's do it to start with. So I'm going to build myself a linear curve here. I'm going to count my grid spaces. I think I make this 2, 3, 4, 6. 3, 2. So that's 3. I'll do another 3 down. And I'll adjust that a little bit, but I'll do that in a second. So I'm going to do the same thing in the side view now. So I was counting my spaces so I know how far to go each time. Over. Okay, I'm happy with that. Other than I want to point out a little bit more. Okay, I'm happy with that. And I'm going to go ahead and group this guy. I'm not worried about where the center point is yet, because I'm going to move it. I'm going to move this a little bit higher than before. So I'm starting off by point snapping it to the skeleton. It doesn't really need to be point snapped to the skeleton, it's wherever I want the pivot point to be. I actually want it a little bit higher here. Just kind of right in the center of the character. So that I'm happy with. And now I'm going to go into component mode. Grab just the CDs here. And just going to pull it. Boom. Okay. Pull it just beyond the controls there visually. So the controls there, CT groups there. I'm going to freeze transforms on that. And we'll call this, what? Seal move all COG for center of gravity again. A little bit of a long-winded name, but okay, so I have these two controls. I'm going to parent one under the other. So I'm going to grab this arrow, quick walk up, parent it under the circle. And so now when I move the circle, this moves with it, this pivot point. But I can also move this independently of that circle. So say if you're doing a spinning jump or something like that, I can translate this circle forward, but then I can spin this guy 360 or whatever, get him to do the spin that he needs to do. All right, so we got those 2 points. Jump back into my Shucky view that likes having the multiple views open. And now we're just going to start parenting controls until we start to get kind of what we want. So I know I want the center of gravity under this control here, because that's going to bring the hips and chest with it. So I'm going to pick walk up and parent that there. And actually, you know what? Just to be extra clean, I'm going to unparent these from there. This guy still has some scale on him. I'm going to go ahead and freeze the scale transforms on him. I turn those off after it goes in the window, but they'll still be off until I go apply it again. So I'm going to remember to turn that back on the next time I use this. So I'm going to pick walk up on those again. Parent them under here. Okay. So that should get rid of any weird scale stuff that we have in there. Yep. And pick walk up on the center of gravity and parent it under that control. So this control now drives those. And that drives that as well. So let's do the feet next. These are kind of the master level of those. I'm pick walking up. If you want to see it in the outliner, we can see it here. And again, I'm going to parent them under this move all cog. So now feet come with the rig. So we got the face and the head and all that stuff staying behind. So we need the knees under there too. So, but they aren't really following anything yet. So let's figure out where we're putting these first. And we're not actually going to parent them necessarily under anything to get them to follow, though we could. Okay, so actually we could do that. It depends where you want them. And the question is, do you want them to follow the hips, or do you want them to follow the feet? I tend to put them under the hips because, twist your foot around. Your knee seems to face forward more than it does to face the same direction as your foot. Ideally, if we could put it, sort of halfway in between, that would be better. But the only way I know to do that is with something like a para constraint, or making like an IK joint that is attached to the tip of the foot to the hip. But neither solution is really elegant. And they're both kind of jumpy, twitchy, glitchy, not great. There's usually some drawback to it. So I think in this case I'll actually just parent them under the hips. I think I'm happy with that decision. So they follow the hips now. It's probably a little bit more natural motion. All right. I was going to parent constraint to the hip joints, but same difference at this point. Let's see, what else do we have left? Okay, so that's kind of the lower body, and now we're just trying to get up to the upper body. Okay, so I'm gonna skip the arms for the time being, and deal with the upper body for right now. So we got all these facial controls that I built. They need to follow not the head control, they actually need to follow this joint, because the head control can move off the head, which would yank parts of our face off away from the rig. So we need to find all these facial controls that I've built. And so I'm going to start seeing if I can select them all through here. They're all kind of bunched together because I made them all around the same time. I'm just selecting until it kind of looks like I have everything. So it's with head IK. So these are the ones I pre-made before I showed you guys how to build the rig. And then here's the ones we made after. We didn't build all these together. I made some afterwards too, but looking at this finalized one, you kind of get the idea of what happened here. Okay, so I think that's everything for the face. I'm going to hide joints just so I can kind of focus in on the curves. It's not the eyes yet, but I'm not worried about the eyes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is group those. Name them master face CT group. That's for all the controls. So I am going to parent this under the head control, but first I'm going to parent constrain it. So the parent constraint will really kind of override following the head, but if I parent it under here, then I'll at least kind of know where everything is. You know what? Getting ahead of myself. I can't, well, let's see. Let me redo that, but I'll have to take some stuff out. Doesn't me just trying to be lazy on not letting them rename stuff and reselect it. So, oops, let me change the settings on my mouse so I didn't zoom out as my scroll wheel just starts spinning. Okay, so this will work for everything but everything attached to the lower jaw. Lower jaw stuff needs to follow the lower jaw. So I actually need to parent those controls under the lower jaw. So all the lower lip stuff, so left lip, no, that's up. Seal, left lip low, and I need to find right lip low. Okay, and those go under the jaw control. And I need to find the lower teeth now. There's lower teeth. Those go under the jaw control. And the tongue. The tongue follows the jaw control. Let me just test this out real quick and see. Oh, I think I got my teeth control backwards. Yep, they're backwards. Let me resolve that real quick. Jaw control, right there. So when I name these, I reverse the names, which also means I probably have the wrong joint following the wrong control. Luckily, this is a pretty easy fix because both joints are in the same spot. They're both oriented the same way. So it's just a matter of renaming them. And you guys shouldn't have to do this if you're using the source file. I'll have gone back and fixed this part. So let's go grab that tooth joint there. Right there. I know at least one's under here. Deep low. Delete its parent constraint. And as much as it looks like I'm fixing my mistakes rather than finalizing the rig, that is part of finalizing the rig, is fixing all the little things that you missed. You know, kind of doing a last check on it and going, okay, what else is there still to do? What did I accidentally leave out? I know there's a few things here and there. There always is. I mean, you can see how much there is to this. You know, this is one character. This isn't a particularly complex setup as far as the stuff that we have going on. This is kind of basic rigging stuff so far. It's just a lot of parts, so yeah, it's easy to forget something. Okay, so that's tooth up, teeth up. Okay, that's better. So, okay, I don't need to look at the joints anymore. I'm looking at the controls. So I've got those in the wrong spot. So, up, get parent under the head, and teeth lower under the jaw. And that's what I'm expecting to see. So here's my jaw control, lower teeth. I don't know if this is the best design for the tongue controls, but they're inside the mouth. We'll see how that goes. But if I decide that's bad later, I'll just make new nerves controls. You know, make a new shape that sticks outside the mouth, shape parent it in. So, but usually most people kind of skip animating the tongue anyway, unless they need something that specifically needs the tongue. And usually the case is the mouth is open, so you can see the tongue in most cases. So I'm going on that assumption. If I'm wrong, I'll fix it. But, that's been my experience anyway. Okay, so I can parent this whole group. I don't need to group, so I can parent this whole group under here because I have the jaw control following the head, and then all that stuff following the jaw control. That should be fine. So I'm going to select the top of the head, grab this master control group, constrain, parent. And just for the hell of it, I am then going to parent this under the head, so I kind of know where to look for all the controls. So now, the face is staying on there. That's kind of what we wanted. All right. Let's see, what do I want to do with this neck control? I think I want to leave it 3 for now. So we're going to do some stuff with the head and the arms here in a second. After we start to parent things. So the other thing I'm going to start to do is just make this a little bit cleaner, so I can sort through to see what's left, is grab all the stuff that is just rig parts and start to group that. So we have this actual skeleton, we're going to group that, so we don't want the animator session. The foot rigs, so the reverse foot rigs, the zigzag thing down here, we don't want them messing with that. So IKN, these are all controls. Controls, yes, we want them playing with those. We don't want to mess with the IK handles. We don't want to mess with the splines, the clusters. These IK handles. We don't want them touching the PV groups. We don't want to mess with the eye up vector groups that we made for the eyes, for those to aim at. I think that's most of that stuff. So I'm going to group all that. And if I'm subtle, I name it DNT. And if I am not subtle, I don't abbreviate it into 3 letters. I actually name it Do Not Touch. And that's about as obvious as I can get of, if you're digging around in here, you're in the wrong spot. Get out of here. And this is all that, this is for technical artists, rigging people only. Animators should not be in here. Eventually, I'll lock this out. I'll hide it. But I won't lock it. I'll hide it, and then I'll lock the visibility. So even if you do display show all, it won't be able to show it until you actually grab the node and unlock the visibility. So it'll look like this when they're working, and they can't grab any of that stuff. So that's in there. So what do we got left? We got the clavicle, which is both arm systems. We have, let's see, let's put, organize this a bit. So I'm going to put both clavicles. I'm going to put both clavicles together. No, not under the wrist. Between. Okay, so I'm looking for that dotted line to show up in between, not a box or anything. So we got the wrist groups. So I'm going to put those 2 together. left hand IK, left elbow IK, right hand IK, right elbow IK. The head group, the neck group, eye targets, left hand, right hand. Okay, so I know what I'm going to do with these. I'm going to parent these under the wrist control. So selecting that CT group, parent. Then basically whenever the hands rotate, we want this thing to come with. So that's all we're doing there. Okay, so this is already starting to be a lot more manageable. So we start to move this, and for the most part it's going. We still got our IK arms sticking back, and IK heads. Oh, I haven't followed anything yet. So let's see. How do we want to do this? You know, I think. Well, no. Yes and no. Okay. So I know what I'm doing. I promise. So I'm going to parent the head under this chest control, but sort of same deal that we're talking about. I can move this chest control off of the actual back. So that's going to kind of move the head some funky ways. So I'm going to actually parent constrain it with maintain offset on so that it follows the chest joint, because that won't leave the skeleton. So we can move this control wherever we want. The head still stays relative to the chest. And same thing with this neck control group. Actually, no, it's already fallen to base, so we're not too worried about that. So these will both be parented under the chest here. Is that what I want, or do I want free moving? Yeah, I think we want that. We want to just be able to move the head independently. It's rarely a case that a person can move their head like a chicken and sway their body around but keep their head just in place. So in this case, we're looking at like what's going to solve for the majority of the time. What's the action this character is doing most of the time? Does the rig solve, best solve for that, or are we talking about fringe cases now and trying to make up? Like, well, here's a special scenario we do like maybe 5% of the time, and I'm going to spend a whole bunch of time trying to figure out how to set up. Like, why bother just animate it that way? That's part of animation. Everything is not automated, and that's me speaking as an animator. I do both. That's how I know how to build these rigs this way. I'm looking at how do I want to animate, and I can get really caught up in but this one little minutiae that comes up hardly ever. I'm going to spend all this time trying to figure out how to solve for that issue, and usually when I do get to solve for that issue, it makes all the regular stuff even harder to go do. So most of the time it isn't worth it. Just go and animate it so much faster than you could try to automate a rig to do it. So all that babbling said, I'm going to grab the chest control here, chest joint, grab the head CT group, constrain, parent. And again, I want to make sure I maintain offsets on. It's usually on by default, parent. That leaves the head up here. Okay, so I'm going to grab both these, parent them under the chest. I'm going to move the head around. Get a little flipping out as I take the center point when the 360 around the center of the neck. That's not kind of a motion we want to do. And again, most of the time we're just rotating this. Make sure this thing goes through the whole body now. That's kind of more what we want to see. Twisting. Okay. So that looks right, and again, I'm undoing every time I try something here. So we have a left. We have the eye target. We'll deal with that in a second. Okay, the elbow pull vectors. Let's switch over to IK so we can see what's going on. Okay. These guys are kind of the same deal. We want them to follow the chest. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and left elbow and right elbow. I'm going to group those. I'm going to move the pivot point of that new group to the chest. And call this elbow master CT group. So anytime I group a left and right side together, I usually call it whatever that control is, master, and then it's just another control group on top of the other control groups. Oh god, what did I do? I grabbed the wrong part, so I clicked this in here instead of clicking left elbow and right elbow in here, so I can get the CT groups. Try that again. So elbow, master, CT. And we're going to parent constrain it to the chest. We don't really want it falling in the arms. We want it more towards the body, so it's a little more fixed in space. Grab the elbow master CT group, constrain, parent. And now the elbow controls follow with the chest. And then just arbitrarily, we're just going to parent them under this chest control. Okay, so what are we down to? We have clavicles. Okay, so we're going to do those. Same deal. Let's just throw, rather than call that elbow master control group, let's put that. I'm going to back up a step here. I'm hitting undo there. So I unparented my elbow master control. I'm just going to call that arm master control. I'm going to stick these clavicles in there. So they are also parent constrained to follow this chest joint. And just take a second here and see if there's anything else I want to do that. I don't think so. We have the wrist, and we have the wrist, the IKs for the hand, eye target move. Okay. That I'm happy with. Almost done here. So I'm saving the complicated step for last. So rotate, the clavicles go with. That looks right. So the only thing we got sticking kind of behind now is our IK hands are still sticking, and our eye controls are sticking. Let's see. Our wrist controls. I think our wrist controls, yeah, they're set to follow the actual arm. So whatever we parent them under is fine. Just to kind of maintain consistency, let's see what do I want to put those under. Because they're already constrained, it really doesn't matter what I put them under. So I'm just going to parent them under here because they're already being told to follow the skinning skeleton from the elbow as far as their position. Well, it's following the hand for its position. It's following the orientation of the elbow, so they always stay lined up with the arm. So they're kind of set. We'll just throw them under here, so we're easy enough to find. Okay, so what this leaves us with is hands and eye targets. So if I wanted to be really simple here, I could just parent the eye control to either follow the head, or if we want the eyes to be able to stay fixed in space, I could say follow the all control over here. But that seems limiting to me. There might be times where I want the eyes to track with the head, and there might be times where I want them to be able to stay fixed in space and follow other things. Kind of same with the hands. There might be times where I want them to, say, follow the hips. So if I put my hands on my hips and, I don't know, he's doing some sort of weird, sexy catwalk for a guy, his hands stay on his hips. Or if he has to walk around shivering and holding himself, we could have the hands follow the chest, so as he twists, his hands stay relatively in place. We don't have to keep moving them. If he wants to do the weird Home Alone screen thing and put his hands up to his face and move his head around and keep his hands on his face, he can. If they need to stay in space, they can. So I don't want to pick any one option. I kind of want to pick all the options. So the way we'll do that is we'll make different groups that will parent constrain all these controls to. We'll parent, so let's just start with the hands. So we'd make, say, a group for following the all control, following the all control with the cog, following just the cog, the hips, the chest, the head. That way, we have all these sorts of different controls to follow. So we'll just make a null to start with. And we'll call the first one world orient. I'll just call these orient nodes, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to orient these parts. We'll duplicate it and call it move all. So we have one that'll orient to wherever the move all is. Duplicate this again. Move all COG for the center gravity one. And I'm just getting really specific here for each kind of these different controls that I might want to follow. And this might be a bit overkill. I might be able to get away with just hips, and actually, I'm going to skip the center of gravity. Center of gravity is just either hips or chest, really. Those shouldn't get too far away from either one. So, just so I don't go complete overkill here. I call it hip or hips. Again, just trying to stay consistent. And so, by the way, so this starts out at the origin, and just me duplicating it is make sure these are all exactly the same every time. We want the same orientation on hips, chest, and head. So eventually what I'm going to do is I'm going to parent these under each of these controls. But I'm not going to do that yet because I want them easily selectable. I'll do that after I do making all the constraints. And so what I'll do is I'll grab, let's go through and do this. So you'll see on one. Actually, I'll make that in a second. So I'm going to grab all the different orients that I've made. Grab the left-hand IK group, constrain parent. And again, I know maintain offsets on, that's what I want. I don't want this shooting down to where that is. So there's one. Let's do the other hand. By the way, so every time I select these, I'm doing them in the same order. That matters because that'll change the order of how they're listed in here if you select them in different orders. So just to keep things consistent, I'm selecting them in the same order. I'm also going to do that for the eye control. Because again, we might want the eyes to track with different body parts, and one of these might be more convenient than another. We've already built them, so let's just use these existing things, these existing orients for the eyes as well. And I'm just going to hit G to do that span. There, you can see here, they're always appearing in the same order. So I'm going to grab all three controls. And I'm going to go modify, add attribute, and name this orient. And rather than a float, I'm going to make it enum. So here I can start listing these off of world. So I'm just going to make one for each of these for each one of these controls I made. So after I do the first two, if you just select down below, that's how you get the next one. And okay, so hips next, chest, and scroll down a little bit, and head. Okay, and because I have all three of those controls selected, when I click, I'm going to deselect to make sure that actually enters. When I click Add now, all three controls get it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to set up set-driven keys so that when world's on, world's the only thing being weighted. So I'm going to go ahead and let's start to set this up. So here's the parent constraint. I'm going to turn all the other ones off by turning them to 0. And let's go grab the set-driven key. So it's under animate, set-driven key, set. And I'm going to load first control as the driver, and the parent. Put that on the wrist, did I? Yep, I just have the wrist. Weird. Anyway, okay, so load this as the driver, the IK hand control with orient in there. Grab the left hand IK CT group parent constraint, load it as the driven, and so I need to select the things that I'm going to key together. And I know, so if I want to switch back and forth between controls, I now can click this name, and I can see what the IK hand's on, and click here, and I can see what this is set to. I'm happy with that, so I'm going to go ahead and select all these together, and then I'll set a key on those. So now it says when that's set to world, this is what these are all set to. And I'm just going to go through and go down one by one and switch these all so that the corresponding part is on. So 0, turn that off, turn this one on. So turned off world orient, turned on move all orient. And got them selected still, heat. And we're just going to go through and do all of these one by one. I don't know if there's an easier way to do this. Maybe scripting, but this is one of those things I think I could probably just go through and click faster than I could probably script. Welcome to the exciting world of rigging. Is it everything you ever imagined it would be? Okay, so there's my hand done. And I'm going to go through and set all these before I kind of show you what they do. So I'm going to reload each of these. I need to make sure that this is right hand now. So load driver and load driven. So I'm just going to double check. When I rigged the hand here, I started jumping ahead and I made a bunch of typos. So just double checking everything I got. I think that looks right. So it's only 2 controls. So that's such a world. I'm going to turn this to only have world on. And select orient. All those. Again, I'm just going to go down the list. Turn these all off and on one by one. And I notice I'm deselecting the number. I do that just because sometimes it doesn't always key if the field's still active. So just be aware of that. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know why it does that to me. Maybe it's a version of Maya when I'm working with older versions of Maya. The new ones do it, but still something I do just to be sure. I don't like when things don't work like I expect. I thought I said all this stuff and I actually didn't. So it's one little thing that ensures that it's actually being set. Starting to forget where I'm at. So okay, so I got one more of these to go do. The eyes. Build up the eye control as the driver. Parent constraint, load that as the driven. Eye control, okay. So let's set these, so constraint 0. Set the world. Set world. Key. And go down the list. Sorry, you start doing this repetitive stuff. You really have to start double checking. Did I change that? I'm not sure that I did. And as much as possible, I try to keep a pattern to everything I'm doing. There's some sort of rhythm to it, but eventually I become unsure if I actually just did the thing that I just did or not. Okay, last one. Okay, so I'm going to make sure these are all set back to world by default for the moment, so we're consistent. So let me show you on the hands. So right now, if I move the move all, hands stay in place. See if I move this one down here. So if I go and change the hand orientation down here, change the move all. Now they'll move with this one. Oh my god. Oh, no they won't, because I haven't parent these to it. So let's do that. So world just stays where it is, because it's going to always stay oriented to the world. So if we flip them over, whatever, if you need to move the body and keep the hands in place because he's handcuffed or something, you can do that. Move all, I'm just going to go under move all control. I'm just going to parent these under there. Move all cog goes under move all cog. Hip goes under the hip control. Chest under the chest control. Actually, I'm going to back up a step. So here's the deal. I don't want to get ahead of myself, because what we're talking about is actually planting the hands on the hips as the hips. Same with the chest. And we've already established with the head that if I move the chest control too far, I could actually get it off the actual rig. So not the best way to keep the hands on there. So what I'm going to do is actually parent constrain these to those corresponding joints before parenting them under there. Same with the head. Okay. So hips for the hips, chest for the chest, head. Okay. Let me go with that demo again. So we're all in the same place now that I move the move all. The hands go with the move all, but they won't go with this one. They're in the same place now. I switch them to. I'm going to start jumping through these because I think we'll get the gist. They're set to follow the chest now. I move the hips. They're not really. Well, it looks like they're sticking, but they're really staying with the chest. So if I move the chest back and forth, and moving with the chest now. If I move the head, nothing. Let's go set them to the head here. Now when I rotate the head, I move with the head. So I can move them up the head and have them stick with these. So that looks great and all, but those parent constraints are relative. So they're relative to whatever position the character is in. So let me do something where go ahead and set it to world. Actually, I'm going to set it to the move all. So I'm going to go ahead and move him back and rotate him. So watch what happens when I set it back to the move all, because everything else is lined up with the skeleton, so the move all is still back over here. They jump back to where the move all one was at. So it's the same with all these. You'll see this jump every time you switch, and I haven't found a better way to do this. Maybe there's some sort of FK, the same way I do FK IK matching I can do with this. That's another lesson. But for now, they'll jump to whatever position. So it's not a smooth transition when you switch from one to the other. I'm sure there's a better system to set up for that, but for basics, that starts to give us, at least at the beginning of the scene, if nothing else, and we can always switch through and deal with the motion by setting keyframes between one and the other. So far, again, it hasn't been a problem. I just animate through that. It's 2 keys, so we key it here, we switch orientation, and then it jumps over here, and the next key, you just within 1 key, it roughly back. Because the motion's so quick between 2 frames, somebody sees the difference. Especially if you hide it with motion. So if it's during a head turn, and then you switch where the eyes are, or when the arm is moving, it's already happening in motion. So a little bit of jitter during the motion isn't going to stand out. So okay, so we've got those set up. So again, now like on the eyes, we tell it follow the head, and the eyes look around with the head. Let's say we want the eyes to stay planted, or at least follow the chest. So it moves with the overall body motion, but not the head. The head can look around, the eyes to be fixed. Now we can do that. So I'm going to set these on what I think is probably most likely the default. And okay, and then we just need to parent these under something. I'll put the eye target under the head. And again, it's already being constrained, so this is just an organization point at this point. It's not telling it what necessarily to follow. And the hands, I'll just stick under the move all cog again. Okay. So far, this is our rig. I'm going to go ahead and move this. Do not touch. Just for hell of it. So I think I'm happy with that as far as setting everything. So now we just have all our meshes in here. So if I turn them all on, they're all inside this mesh group. All the rig parts in here. We can move this thing as a whole now. So if you animate this, there's one whole moving rig. Nothing's breaking apart, and then we have the do not touch stuff. Which I shouldn't move that at all ever. Okay, so that's the rig put together, but there's still some things we want to fix. Let me go ahead and check. Oh, I turned off. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we can hide this stuff now. Ultimately, this is what we want our animators to see. But there's other stuff in here that's animatable that doesn't do anything. Like, really, the only thing I need to do is translate these Japanese ink. Is this not wrong? Huh. Oh, see, there's another thing I missed. Let's go find this ink light here. Yeah, there's no pullback on it. Let's fix that real quick. Like this move. Alright. Weird. So I've never hooked that up. So these only move. You don't need to rotate them. You don't need to scale them. Yeah, stuff. So for some reason you might want to turn visibility on and off, but for rotate and scale, I'm going to do select all the names here. Lock and hide selected. So we'll lock them out so they not only can they not keyframe them, but they can't see the attributes anymore. And I'm just going to go through and do these, do this for all these different controls. And oh wait, no, I want rotate. What am I doing? I just don't want to scale. Lock and hide selected. The reason I don't want to scale is because that control is just not set up to scale and do anything useful. It's going to make a mess of that if they try to do that. And most of these are that way too. So I'm going to go ahead and grab scale for all these, lock and hide selected. Again, these guys only translate, so I'm going to hide the rotate as well. I'm going to turn off visibility. I'm not going to hide, or I'm not going to lock it, but I'm going to hide it. Because when we switch back and forth between our FK and IK controls, that's already controlling those. I don't translate these, so I'm going to lock and hide that. Let them stay on the wrist. And lock and hide the scale. So the reason I'm leaving the visibility on is that's what allows us to hide and unhide things. So if something goes, hide all but this, the controls will actually disappear. So that's the only reason I'm not locking that out. Let's see, I'm going to switch this to FK because we don't want to translate or scale these. Lock and hide selected. Lock and hide selected, and again, I'm just not going to lock this, I'm just going to hide it because we want to be able to turn that on and off. These guys shouldn't do anything, so I'm just going to grab all these. They don't translate, they don't rotate, they don't scale, they're just all for these controls here. And again, so in theory, I could hide this visibility. They couldn't key it the same way we're doing for the FK controls. The only thing is sometimes if you like hide all and then you do you say hide selected and then you hide some other stuff, and you hit Control Shift H to unhide last hidden objects. Well, that still doesn't get you back the first thing you hit, just whatever the last thing you hit was, and then you have to go back and manually turn back on visibility. So that's why I'm leaving that out. This is an FK control too, but sometimes you actually need to move the flap wheels out. You need to kind of break the model to do that. So I am going to leave them those. Just on the flap wheels. Okay, this guy's a particular special case where he only rotates an X because we're just using it to control that pole vector constraint. So we're hiding everything but rotate X. Okay, and the head control doesn't scale. Eye controls. Okay, so we've got the auto aim going on here, so we're locking and hiding that. And we definitely are not scaling. And these guys we can translate. I don't care if they translate those or rotate them. There's no point in scaling them. And then all these controls. Trying to think if I want to translate on any of these. Well, at least for now, I'm going to just leave them on translate and rotate. I'm going to keep the scale on, or just get rid of the scale for the moment. I'll keep it on. Potentially, I don't want people moving these. I want most of it done with rotation, so we're going to keep the volume. Maybe I'll keep the X motion for them, so you could move it in and out, but not side to side. For now, I'm actually, I'm going to do that for all these rotation ones that are part of the face, because I want to encourage them rotating rather than translating. So, yeah, I'm going to lock everything but translate X. And I hope that's a good idea. If not, I'll just come back and fix this. Still on. Selected. Okay. And then let's see, we still got the teeth here. And those we do want to be able to translate because we're going to do some programs where we can move the teeth around. And the jaw control, we want to be able to move because the jaw has some stretch to it, so it's not just rotating or kind of after the wide. You might be able to translate that, so we'll leave them to translate controls as well. So I think that's about everything. The only other thing I can think of is maybe checking your rotation order on things to make sure they're the most optimal. So like right now, default on these joints is XYZ, because that's the default when you build them for rotation order. But remember how our gimbal works. So XYZ would mean X spins freely, doesn't affect anything. Y will take X, so it's really easy to get Y. Let's see, if Y is spinning and takes X, yeah, you have the potential to get gimbal lock between X and Z. Then, so it's just thinking, okay, so primary motion is going to be Z bending up and down. Z is the first one in the gimbal, so that takes everything with it. That should be fine. Next one's Y. Y we potentially get gimbal lock going side to side, but we never go. We never go more than 90 degrees with that, so that should be fine. So, that's the kind of stuff I can think of. It's like, is there anything in the shoulder? Oh, actually, here is something in the shoulder. I realized I never hooked these little guys up. So here's our twist joints for our arm, and we haven't hooked them up. And actually, I'm going to change the setup of the skeleton a little bit. All the controls will stay working. I'm just going to kind of reorganize how they're parented. So, and we don't need to do this on all the arms, just the joint arm. So, bicep and elbow and forearm. Okay, so in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to parent the hand under the elbow and parent the elbow under the shoulder. So this gives us the same setup as essentially our FK rig or IK rig. We just have this extra joint sticking out that's parented under them for the elbow or for the bicep for twisting. And what I'm going to do is hook up a multiply divide node. So this joint is twisting. Let's say I'm twisting my arm back and forth, twisting my wrist back and forth, looking at my own arm. Let's say this joint does, I don't know, somewhere between 30 and 40% of what the wrist does. And this will get us a little bit nicer fall off. It will also help prevent from our geometry collapsing. And by that, let me see if I can do this a simple way. I'm going to make a cylinder here for an example. Oh, I'm going to turn back on polygons. and I'm going to make it a little bit taller and give it some subdivisions on the height. And I'm going to see if I can just do this with soft selection first. Okay, so this is kind of a gradual fall off. Oh. Gradual fall off going down the cylinder. And I'm going to just translate it and show me a discrete rotate so you can kind of see what's going on. That discrete rotate doesn't do it. Okay, so I'm going to skin this up real quick so you can see, you might be wondering, like, why am I bothering with this for the arm? Polygons, wireframe, so I can just trace this out. Okay, so 3 joints. Just going to skin this up to here. Okay. Don't worry about that. We'll cover that part when we're doing insinuating. What am I looking for? Not the fault shader. Wireframe and shader. So right now, if I gradually twist this, you can see we're getting a little bit of collapse, but not that much. It starts to decrease a little bit. So if I do 180 on the top, you can see how much that starts to pinch. Where here we did 90, it's only pinching half that much. This is what we'd see in the middle of the arm if I didn't have a set of the joint there. So let's actually go back a step. I'm going to take that middle joint out of the equation. Let's get better fall off first. Let's see. And this is all stuff we'll cover eventually. I'm just going to do the quick version of this as much as possible. Okay, call that good enough, but now you can start to see what happens as I twist it. You get a lot of collapse happening in there. I mean, not nearly as much as we did when we had that other joint there. So that's why we're putting joints up and down the middle, is to avoid that happening when we twist our arms. I could rotate my hand about 180 degrees, palm up or palm down. We don't want our arm to start to look like that. We want it to maintain its falling. It did a much better job with the joint doing the transition for doing 90 degrees and the rest doing 180. So that'll prevent the pitching. That's the idea there. And it doesn't have to be parented in between. As long as we tell it rotate 50% of whatever this joint is doing, it'll look just the same. It's going along the same path. So let's see. Let's go ahead and I'm going to make a multiply divide node for that. Grab this joint here and grab my outliner. Grab left forearm and left hand, because those are the two we're worried about this moment. Go to window, hypergraph connections. And okay, there's my left hand, there's my left forearm, rendering, create render node. I'm going to make our multiply divide node, so I'm going to utilities, multiply divide. Hopefully this is all familiar at this point. You can see how we're just kind of using the same things over and over really now. Okay, let's left forearm twist, multiply. Now we're going to turn the multiply to I'm going to say 0.35. This is say 35% of whatever the hand is doing. So I'm going to find the left hand joint and plug that into my multiply divide node that I just made. So middle mouse dragging it from left hand joint to the multiply divide node, selecting other. And I'm going to go down and find what rotate is it? It's rotate X. Got right, obviously, because X is the space of the child. Plug that into input 1x, and now I'm going to load this multiply divide node up as the output, and plug that into the form joint. And the only thing this is going to do is rotate X. It's just going to give us a nice gradual fall off there. And okay, so I'm going to do the same thing for the shoulder and the bicep here. And those are both. Yep, joint. Okay. And create another rendering node, or not rendering, multiply divide node. Bicep twist. Okay. And okay, so I'm stopping here, and in real life, I am twisting my bicep back, or my wrist back and forth, and seeing how much twist on my shoulder. It's really moving my elbow back and forth as I'm doing it. This is really boring to watch. I do this yourself as I'm explaining it. And it looks like my arm maybe is around my bicep twisting, let's say 20% to 30% of what my shoulder is. So that's what I'll plug in for that number. So let's go be conservative at first, say 20%. And let's see. We actually want, let's see, because this is the one doing the twisting. We want to kind of counter animate that, I believe. So it's not twisting as much, so we get fall off going down the arm. So actually, I think I want negative 0.2. I'll test this theory out when I'm skinning it. When we get to the skinning video, if I'm wrong there, I'll correct it. But I think that's the theory, because here you're trying to do half of what this is, which is more than what the elbow is doing. But this, it's going the other way. It's, as we go up the arm, we're getting more twisting happening up here. So I think we want to counter what's going on there. I could be wrong. If it is, I go back and change this positive number. That's the easiest way to find out. But, we'll run with that theory for now. So let's hook up the. Where is the shoulder? Okay. Plug the left shoulder into. Oops. Oh no, that's right. So middle mouse dragging left shoulder joint to the left bicep joint, other. And I'm going to find rotate X and plug it into input 1x. And then load up the multiply divide node as the output. Load up the left bicep as the input on the input or output for X. And plug it into rotate X. Alright, so that would get us the arm set up. And I'm just going to go real quick. This will be a speed run. I'm going to try to do it without as much talking here and do the same thing on this side. So hopefully you guys can see how fast I can actually do this when I'm not trying to explain everything I'm doing at the same time. compared to before. Okay, and I'm just going to do the same thing for right, rather than graph this. Just duplicate that node. Right. Shoulder. Left shoulder. You can tell it was left shoulder because when I got to rotate X, it was already italicized, telling me that it was already hooked up with something, which left shoulder shouldn't be. So now, going back into right bicep. Okay, so now we've got that fall off twisting happening on our arms. So cool. All right, so I think that's everything. Let's show it to you guys real quick here before we get out of here. So I'll go to my handy locators again. Scale these up 300%. Turn them under each corresponding joint. Sort them out, sort them up. And then actually we can see if that number works the way I expect it to. So now when I twist the wrist, turn on the screw rotate. Actually is which one is this? Oh no, it is one. Okay. Wait, no, I'm twisting the hand anyway. Did I not hook this up? What is this one? Oh, so there's something else I'm missing. I forgot to actually hook up this fan control. So, strain orient. Did you get one? Nope, I didn't. I must have missed that step earlier. Okay, take 2. That's more like it. I think I went and rebuilt some stuff to fix some things earlier, and I forgot to hook stuff back up. So I think I did it with the tutorial, but I think I went back and fixed some stuff, and that was the result. So you can see that this is rotating more than the forearm is. That's exactly what we want. And we want kind of the same thing in the shoulder now, so I rotate this. There we go. Yep, we can see, I kind of look down at this, you can kind of see this guy. He's twisting, but not as much, so he's going like 20% less. So, you know, I can go tweak those numbers if those aren't exactly what I want, but you can tell they're essentially doing their jobs right now. So I think that's everything, you know, provided that I actually hooked up everything and I didn't miss anything else. If I have, I'll try to cover it. Hopefully we covered it to some extent in one of the videos. But this is a finalized rig for the most part. So we still got a couple things left. There's some potential blend shapes that we're going to add to this, and we're going to skin weight it. We'll probably skin weight it first before we add in the blend shapes. But this is getting here. We're nearing the completion of this. As far as the rig's concerned, it's up and running. We just got to actually put the character on there now. So that'll be the next video. Hope you guys were able to follow along, and until next time.